All right. Urantia book time. The ultimate in understanding. We are trying to understand reality on the physical level and the science. We can't deny any of these types of levels. Whenever I look at a various ism that man has created or evolved on his own without the help of revelation, I see that there's always some sort of aspect being denied, be it the physical, we cannot deny that, the scientific. We can't deny the philosophical and not have a framework of truth that makes sense, logic. But we also can't deny that there are things beyond man's logic and understanding which we would call spiritual, although once attained, we will find that these levels are altogether logical. But you have to attain it first. You can't just give a theorem on it, unlike philosophy. Philosophy is something that is based on true and false things that can be debated and argued out. Within philosophy, there always needs to be a starting point. The most common ones are whether or not your starting point is going to be what you experience inwardly. This is like the Rene Descartes meditating to say, hey, how do we know that our eyes aren't deceiving us? How do we know that the ruler isn't wrong, in other words? You're acting on a premise, a scientific premise, that, yeah, sure, all these different astronomers measured the distance to Pluto and they all got the same number, so we're assuming that that's truth. How do we even know that Pluto is a reality? How do we know that we're not just brains floating in a tank? So he went to the only thing that he could verify without any sort of outside influence, and that was his own inner experience. Seek within. This is also common in the Eastern school of thought amongst your Buddhist monks and various other meditative heavy understandings. Your Zen and they're understanding reality from the inside out. But now also we have to take into consideration that when we do all measure Pluto correctly, we do get the same number. So there's something to be said for that. Some would say only the outside matters. That's a whole different starting point for philosophy to say that that's the, I forget who it is, maybe like an Ayn Rand would say that. But the other, the important thing then, we have a third selection, which is a balance between both, which the Urantia book um, is a proponent of. But the Urantia book puts a third one into it, which is spirit. So you have your inner monologue, your scientific monologue, your philosophical, which is your Rene Descartes, and then you have your spiritual or morals. Because without spiritual, then any of those things that we're experiencing as morals can always be prescribed to as being parts of your own human consciousness. They can always be just another aspect of the computer, the program, the machine. It's always a machine unless there's an eternal God or a spirit or some transcendent entity to the mind and the physicality. And that's what we're um, thinking about. That's what we need to have as a counterbalance to the mind and the science. Mind being philosophy, science being the physical. But then your personal is your choice on if you want to believe in that spirit, because it always takes a level of belief. And that's where your personal choice comes in. But again, like I said, once you attain or embark upon those, then they become altogether spiritual. See, in the Eastern, they understood that there was levels that humans could attain that were beyond just pure animalistic levels, but they did hours and thousands of hours of meditation in order to attain those levels. And even the scientists concluded that they were onto something because they did many studies where they literally hook them up to EGG machines, I think they're called, where they measure the various power signals in their brain when they're asked to think about certain things. And they were asked to meditate on something like, this was a famous study. I forget where, but you can look it up. They're asked to meditate on something like unconditional compassion, and they did. And these meditators practically broke the machines. They thought the machines were broken because they were literally like hundreds of times higher in the strength of their mind and their focus, and how the symmetry of their hemispheres were lighting up compared to regular people. And they said these people are truly achieving a measurable scientific level of heightened brain activity, heightened awareness, heightened consciousness that we can actually see. And they said, geez, their happiness levels are off the charts as well, hundreds of times higher than your regular human. That's why they thought the machines were broken. I know I'm just flipping through the book idly here, um, and on a tangent, but we're getting somewhere. Trust me. So then, so they said, "Hey, what do you guys? What's your secret?" No, they're like, "Oh, we literally sit and look at a wall for 50,000 hours." Like that's their secret. But they earned it. They got it. So the divine gives it to them. They're like, "Yeah, we're not gonna. This guy really was really dedicated. We're really gonna give him the answer." And they get it, and they earned it, and that's what they did. But here's where revelation comes in, people. What we have here, that was an old way that they went about it. Revelation reveals that we can take a shortcut to that state because there's a sudden spiritual advancement that can take place. Yes, the mind and the body need to be in order, as in this isn't going to be given to anybody through an arbitrary favor. You need to make the conditions right. But then when you begin to give your own problems of the world, your own things that are making your mind spin in circles, or that you just can't resolve, you just can't get over because of your own depression and that sort of thing. We're on page 1616, by the way. The Urantia book teaches that you're to solve that by having a cooperation and a partnership with deity through your own thought adjuster, which is also within you. And that is your link. That is your link to the divine God that can solve any difficulty, but can't do so without your free will. So you have to consciously make an effort to give your issues and problems and say, I am going to let you do the heavy lifting on this issue. These are my issues. And you're communing, literally speaking with the divine in a quiet moment. And you're to say, this is my issue. It is my will that you make this the best that it can possibly be. And I am going to continue to go out and live my life and give you more soil, battery power, whatever you want to talk about it, for you to then create this happy atmosphere, this positive frame of mind within me. We don't need to figure it out. We just need to sit back, and the thought adjuster will adjust all of, that's what it's called, an adjuster. It's literally going to adjust all of those circuits, all of those circumstances. It's going to coordinate with powers that are beyond our wildest imagination, and it's going to synthesize them. You're going to find the other people that are also asking for coordination, and you can team up. But see, there's this socializing element to it that the monks missed out on. So you can either go 50,000 hours staring at a wall or your own belly button, or you can go out, socialize, you can have a family, you can confront those nitty gritty problems of the world. And each time you deal with a coworker who is not very happy and you have to sort of iron out the situation, each time you deal with you get yourself out of a jam like a flat tire, and you walk to the gas station on your own accord, and some sort of, doing problem solving. In other words, you're doing problem solving with the basis of a firm constitution in your mind and heart and spirit. Then you're coming back then to that adjuster with more soil, with more um, battery power, then it can then take and upgrade your machinery, which would be your mind. So let's look at this little blurb here about teaching about prayer and worship on page 1616, the life of Jesus of Nazareth. Let's see what Jesus of Nazareth has to say about this. At the evening conference on Mount Gerizim, Jesus taught many great truths, and in particular, he laid emphasis on the following. True religion is the act of an individual soul in its self-conscious relations with the Creator. Okay, so this is going right to the heart. True religion versus organized religion is man's attempt to socialize the worship of individual religionists. You can have both. You can socialize, you can be a Christian and a member of a church or synagogue or whatever it is, but as long as you're also having the true religion, because if you're just socializing it and you're never having a self-conscious relationship with the Creator, and that can vary in degrees, and it should vary as you continue on. It should increase. It should be a growth process. Then you can literally have both of these things, and you can be in this relationship with the divine, but only you can do it, and no formal creed, no ceremony. Seriously, somebody could get baptized 300 times per day, but in their own mind, they could be saying, I don't believe this, terrible, blah, 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 blah. Who knows if this is really true, whatever. It's all about what's in your own mind and heart that would say if you're having a true religious or not. Socialize the worship of individual religionists, okay? Worship, which is simply contemplation of the spiritual, people. See how easy that is? You do that however you want it. That is a huge, open, wide door for you to do whatever makes you. But my suggestion is to go for direction. What would be direction? Literally communing with God, because God is sitting inside of you. But it's a vast entity that you're connecting with. Okay? Must alternate with service. Here you go. So you can't just contemplate. Okay? Contact with material reality. So he's really telling the Buddhist monks they don't need to do 500,000 hours or 50,000 hours worth of meditation there. Work should alternate with play. You see this balanced individual that we're having here? This person who could function in the world and doesn't need to stare at a wall in a monastery. Religion should be balanced by humor. Again, the joys of life. You're lightening your load. You're just flowing effortlessly. Relax and flow. Profound philosophy, which should be relieved by rhythmic poetry. But see, the thing is they're not saying profound philosophy that's too much. What do you do? Why are you even contemplating anything, man? It's saying, hey, if you go profound philosophy, just make sure that you have some poetry in your life, some happy, joyous types of things, some light things. Or let's even look at it literally, some rhythmic poetry. That sounds cool. The strain of living, the time tension of personality. See, you're giving think of these things as new battery power for your thought adjuster to rewire your hardware. Okay? The strain of living isn't something to be avoided. the time tension of personality. It's naturally going to be there. The universe is set up so there's naturally going to be a in the time space universe a tension with personality. Should be relaxed by the restfulness of worship. So there's your way out there, okay? Your relaxation. The feelings of insecurity arising from the fear of personality isolation in the universe should be anointed or antidoted by the faith contemplation of the Father and by the attempted realization of the Supreme. Now, this would be like our goal as time space individuals here. Attaining the Supreme is the most of God that a time space individual like ourselves, well, mortal at this stage, can attain and contemplate, understand, and fully synthesize, because that's the evolving God of time and space, the Supreme. It's evolving aspect of God. And then this right here, um, this isolation thing is really you're understanding not just that your own tribe here on this planet, but you're understanding the whole cosmic mechanism. And that's how we become cosmic people, by simply choosing to believe in that. And then again, after that, you will start to have the experience which show, if you haven't already, which show beyond a shadow of a doubt that this brotherhood of all and sisterhood of all is the reality. Prayer is designed to make man less thinking but more realizing. It is not designed to increase knowledge but rather to expand insight. So you see, there's all of these synthesizing, um, I don't know what, bridges between philosophy, true religion, prayer, and personality. Okay? We're trying to synthesize this, all right? Remember, God is unity. So we're trying to bring all these diverse things together in a unified personality. Personality is the only thing that can bring the sciences together with the philosophies together with the true religions. Worship is intended to anticipate the better life ahead and then to reflect these new spiritual significances back into the life which is now. Prayer is spiritually sustaining, but worship is divinely creative. So there's a difference there, a distinct sort of difference to that, okay? Um, you know, prayer is a trust sort of concept, where um, and worship is more just you're giving your love and sort of your homage. You're paying homage. Prayer is more like what it says here. Um, you're going to be realizing, less thinking. Okay? Worship is the technique of looking to the one God for the inspiration of service to the many. That's very interesting. You're going to get your, what's the word? Energy from it. Worship is the yardstick which measures the extent of the soul's detachment from the material universe and its simultaneous and secure attachment to the spiritual realities of all creation. And I don't know about you, but detaching from the material universe is not a flighty sensation. It's a very grounded sensation, because what isn't attaching to, if you're on drugs, you're very much attached to the material universe because that's a chemical compound. And also, there's too much. One of the big issues with our planet today is that the materialism is literally going to probably crush us into maybe even extinction. I mean, I know that the Urantia book says that uh, there's going to be people that are lifted off the planet if that event comes. But our materialism is so obnoxiously crushing. Well, we just had our first trillionaire, and Elon Musk, and that's just pure materialism. Now, here's the other deal. They know that there's a reality that these monks have tapped into because it's scientific. It's evidence that they can point to. Are they pouring billions of dollars into, or trillions of dollars into understanding that? Is that where all the investment is going? Into trying to, make schools around that, reforming society so that people can attain these, looking to different avenues For instance, okay, like let's say that's the end goal. Well, could we make the person into a more efficient way of reaching that? If so, let's explore other avenues. What could be another avenue? The Urantia book says that this is a way to do it. That's easier than 50,000 hours. Are we doing that? No, we are not doing that because you can't put a patent on being still and worshiping, right? So they have to literally reform the whole society. They have to reform everybody's brain through their various algorithms now to make them all hyped up on tech and AI so that at the end of the day, there is a patent for it. Brain chips to put inside of people's minds to try to make them live longer. Upload your consciousness and your memories onto the cloud. That way you won't die. They know they've sold their souls, also, many of them. So that's what they need to discover. They think about, okay, all of these data centers, they could literally be because Peter Thiel is afraid of dying, which he is, and he wants to um, become, booted up into the cloud. Okay, these people are so lost. There's no sense of what's the word? Morals. There's no sense of spiritual understanding. There's no higher sense of the universe. They're so into computers they think, wait, am I a computer? At the end of the day, but no, obviously it's preposterous. So you're gonna make all these data centers. People are gonna be the whole status quo is still gonna carry on and get even worse as far as your income inequality goes, which is your materialism. This we are living materialism right now. So if you've ever had a stress or concern about a money issue, if you feel like your life would be easier if you had more resources and money, then you understand what materialism is. And now some people literally even die because of it. So there, it just goes to show we're completely out of whack. Technology is not more materialism is not the answer. Building tools are fine, but again, it's not the misuse. It's it's the misuse and abuse of it that is going to be fatal. And who knows how fatal this is going to be. We will see, we will find out. But so far we're going backwards and backwards with this. Um, but again, this is all just learning experiences for us because we don't have to run the thought experiment and say, huh, I wonder what the world would be like under crushing materialism. We just have to look out there and see. Working 40 hours. Remember, the Urantia book teaches that it's something like when a planet becomes optimized, it's something like 1 hour a day that they have to do their quote work. The rest is more relaxation, worship, service, building community, creation, all that sort of stuff. Look at spiritual realities of creation. Okay. Um. Okay. So, prayer is self-reminding, sublime thinking. Worship is self-forgetting, super thinking. Interesting. See, that's a great way to distinguish them between your mind. Okay? Prayer is self reminding, sublime thinking. Worship is self forgetting, super thinking. Worship is effortless attention, true and ideal soul rest, a form of restful spiritual exertion. Worship is the act of a part. Oh, wait, let's just remember true and ideal soul rest, a form of spiritual exertion. So it seems like it's an oxymoron. The reason, remember, spiritual exertion, the source of spirit is God, which is infinite. But spiritual energy is consumed, okay? You just have to keep re-upping your quota within the moment through your connection with the Creator. So that way it's never going to be exerted because there's an infinite source of it. But it is consumed, okay? It's never going to be exerted fully, in other words. Okay. Worship is the act of a part identifying itself with the whole, the finite with the infinite, the Son with the Father, time in the act of striking step with eternity. Worship is the act of the Son's personal communion with the Divine Father, the assumption of refreshing, creative, fraternal, and romantic attitudes by the human soul spirit. Although the apostles grasped only a few of his teachings at the camp, other worlds did, and other generations on earth will. It's difficult to grasp for us, but it's there, people. It's there for you anytime you want to access it. So try those shortcuts. That service, going out into the world, but at the same time, literally do a practice where you try 5 minutes of giving any sort of issue or any, even your longings. It doesn't just have to be an issue, it can be a romantic longing. And that doesn't necessarily just have to be something like, I want to be in a various relationship. It can be something like, I want to be a part of making a change on the planet. That could be like a romantic longing and a romantic attitude, like a lofty ideal in a way. And so it doesn't just need to be an issue. Okay, give your lofty ideals to the divine as well, and and let the divine sit back and wait and listen. Okay, but while you're doing that, go into the world and gather more of those experiences. Every experience you have, remember, because we are dealing with perfection. So you might think it's just a pleasant experience with a coworker, and you might have had 10 or 20 with them in the past hour. One quick little pass by and a nice cooperative moment. That's part of the battery. That's being recorded. And remember, you will be unconscious of this growth. The time schedule is not up to us. The time schedule is in the divine hands. So you might be like, hey, I don't feel any different, but it's happening slowly and surely. And you might not really understand what it is. Maybe until after this life. I think that really depends on your pace. I feel like if you really want to understand the root of or the fruit of your spiritual energies, then I believe that you just have to go the next mile. Okay? They say store up your treasures in heaven, but they say the domain of heaven is at hand, right? So it's both. If you want to store them up and you only want to go the half mile with this, then go for it. But if you really want to wear the armor 100% and become a full 100%er, then you're going to start seeing the results of your spiritual efforts, guaranteed. All right, folks, that's just a little bit there, a little blurb in the book here. Thanks for checking out the videos, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well, and I know you're doing well if this is what's on your mind, because you can't fail. You cannot. There's no such thing as failure for us. We may not succeed, but we take that learning moment, we give it to our adjuster, and it's transformed into the soil for our next success. So it's not failure. You simply did not succeed. But if you know how to learn from that, then it's never a failure. So